Hey, you. I didn't think we were gonna have to do this so early, but I think it's time to do Texas Part Two. Hey, it's Zach, and welcome back to Bearded Politics. And like I mentioned before, I didn't think we were gonna do a part two for really any episode this early in my channel's creation, but some stuff's going on, man. This Texas thing is really ramping up, and I'm sure a lot of you already know a little bit more about it. And so I had some more thoughts on it because it's developing so quickly that I feel like I would do myself a disservice to just already drop the topic. Um, like, you know, with more and more governors kind of signing on. Now I'm going to use the quotes signing on. Okay. You have these governors in the Republican states saying, "Hey, I believe in your cause. Sign me up too." Now, I'm not saying that there aren't going to have other states that are going to be in support and send help if needed, but I will pose the question, uh, or more of a statement now that I'm really thinking about it. But like, I feel like Republicans in the past have supported certain topics by a very strongly worded letter. Now, what does that support actually look like other than a strongly worded letter? That remains to be seen. Now, I'm just being the skeptic here because I can't foresee like, you know, Indiana sending a militia down. Now that may be happening. Like I'm sure you have seen the videos that I've seen where it's tons of people, you know, rallying for the cause. You know, you got your convoys, you got your truckers, you got your people in support, waving the flags and saying, "Hey, let's defend Texas." And do not get me wrong, I am down to clown with that. Okay, but I just want to say that we got to be careful in when we're grouping, all these other governors and saying, look, Texas has the support of 25 other states and everything. They have a strongly worded letter of saying, "Hey, I support you. I got your back, buddy." Now, let's let's see when it comes to blows, if it comes to blows, what actually comes from this. You know, part of the new developments since we last spoke was um, Joe Biden gave him a 24-hour, "Hey, take it down, or I send my boys in there." Now, I've also seen that the rebuttal was keep your razor wire, do whatever you want, but we're going to work on giving amnesty to pretty much everybody that is here illegally. Is that the answer? For those that have came across the border illegally, is that the answer to finding a middle ground between Republicans and Democrats on this? Is yeah, just make them all legal. Well, it troubles me because a if they were not part of some type of illicit or criminal background in their previous country and they were really seeking asylum, would they not go through the border normally, the legal way? Like if I was going to a different country and I was seeking asylum, now I feel like we could talk about what asylum really is, like imminent death, the mob is after me, um, you know, I'm fearing for my life. Those I would say maybe is I'm actually seeking asylum. Now, I want a better life than what I'm living, so I want to come into your country. That's not asylum. That is, I want to do better by my family, which I can get on board with. Again, don't get me wrong. But could you do it the normal way? Go through naturalization, do it the proper way to become an actual legal citizen? Yeah. Yep. That is the actual way to do it. And, you know, I've also seen a couple things. So I'd have to look it up and see who originally posted it. But there was a documentary that I watched on Twitter the other day that a guy who looked a lot like me, Caucasian guy, went down to I think it was like South America, and where he followed the trail. for those that go through and do the border crossings. Like he went through the jungles, he went through all the dangerous like walking through like rivers and all that stuff, and it was a very interesting watch because he was climbing and hiding in trains, crossing into Mexico, and then at the end he got kidnapped by the mob or the cartel, and then let him go and everything. But it is interesting to see that because I feel like that is something that we typically don't talk about, like the actual route that they're taking. We typically just see them as they have entered Mexico, or like, at the end of Mexico where they're entering the United States around that area. You know, that's typically where we would get a visual of them. We don't see them in their actual path to the United States. And there's a lot of like the death, and like if you're not prepared, if you don't have the right gear, if you get hurt, like nobody's gonna save you. They're gonna rob you. They're gonna leave you for dead. Like it is that type of situation. And you can look at that and say, wow, if they're willing to do that coming to the United States, like that's crazy. Like they really need to escape where they're living. Sure. But also in that same documentary, there is a ton of military aged males that are not just Hispanic. There was a lot of Indian, Middle Eastern of descent, Chinese coming through this way. Now, why on earth would they need to go this way to get into the United States? Why could they not go through the proper channels flying over? However, somebody would migrate from the Middle East to the United States. I would imagine it's not through Mexico. But if they did not have some type of, you know, ill means, or they were going to do something or perpetrate something, or if they weren't a criminal already and looking to get into the United States and disappear, why wouldn't they go through the normal means? Like, why are they going through Mexico? Like, it was, and this might sound crazy, but it was shocking to me when I seen that there was, Asian males there, and not just a couple of them, a ton of them, and like for them to be coming through the border just like we would expect Hispanic people or Mexicans or whoever below the border to come through legally. Like that's in my head, that's what I envision. It was a whole smorgasbord of people, like not just the usual suspects. And you know, it's crazy to me because you know something's going to happen. You know, Mm, basically, I feel like we're at this precipice, this cliff that something's building up, and we're right there. Like this Texas thing is serious. It's I would say huge because it's states' rights versus government, right? And you have a ton of support for states' rights. I feel like pretty much anybody with common sense could agree with that. But I feel like it's bigger than that because I watched something else. I can't remember the name of it, but basically it goes on to the replacement theory of the track record of by 2050 there's going to be X amount of migrants that's going to outnumber the people that were natural born citizen there in the country. And when you do that, I kind of alluded to this before. It's just future voting base. That's it. So like it's cut and dry. It is what it is. We can call it a spade, right? If you were letting tons of people in illegally and then you're going to feed them, house them, whatever, you are basically securing a future voting base so that you can stay in power and have a perpetual Democratic Party leader. Okay? I don't know any other way to spend it other than that. And especially if you're having unvetted people of different countries coming in this way. China is a huge one. They don't really like us over there. They actually, you know, probably want to do us in because they are not a democracy. We are a democracy. We are. We were a superpower. I would say we still kind of are. Um, I would imagine they would want their main currency to be the currency, the standard for the world, where the dollar is, and the dollar is currently dying. So, I would imagine that they basically just want to replace us. And I'm surprised they haven't called all their debts for everything that we owe them and how much money we owe China. Everything's made in China. You know, That's a whole other topic. I'm not gonna get into all that, but you know, it's crazy because you have states that are doing this stuff out in the open. California, they voted in where it doesn't matter what your immigration status is, you can have full healthcare coverage. Does that apply to vets for all the homeless people that they have laying all over San Francisco or whatever shithole in California? Just throw a pin at the map wherever in California, right? I mean, does that apply to everybody? If I moved to California and I just didn't have a job and I decided to be homeless, do I have full health care? Is that paid by California? Or is it only if I'm an illegal immigrant do I get that? I mean, they're wanting them to have undocumented people voting in their elections. I feel like that's one of the rights that we are given by living in the United States is that we get the right to vote, right? If I went to Mexico, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna live here now. This is my home. I don't give a shit about your immigration papers or whatever you want. I don't care, right? I want somewhere that I could live. So help me out. Give me some food. Give me a house. Also, I want to have a say in your elections. Does that sound right? I feel like that sounds off. Like I don't know. Like I try to envision myself in that position, right? I try to think of the other person and making sure that like my opinion isn't too far off base. Okay. Like I try to feel empathy for others, right? I'm sure there are good people that are coming through the border illegally. I'm sure there's still good people. They're still people, right? I'm not saying we go do something to them, but it's still illegal, right? Um, if I break the law, I still broke the law, regardless if I'm a good person or not. If I, you know, if I go drunk driving, right? I had a bad day, broke the law, and I hurt somebody or whatever. I might still be a good person, but I still broke the law, right? So if your first encounter with the United States is breaking the law, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're a good person or not. And I was watching this fella on Twitter. I think I might pull it up here in a second, but his answer was ship them all back. Find them, ship them back. And as cool as that sounds, I mean, and I'm not saying like I'm not on board with that. As cool as that sounds, how are you going to do it? How many resources and manpower are you going to go in and be pulling people out of houses and doing all this stuff? Like, that's why I'm trying to pose the counter argument to, you know, just give them amnesty, just make them all Americans. I mean, I feel like there's some type of in between, you know. Um, I would say giving somebody a path to citizenship if they're already here and they've already had their anchor family here, you know, you can't just uproot people and just ship them back willy-nilly without people losing their minds. I mean, even with you talking about it, they're going to think that you're some type of Nazi or something. I just I feel like if we just step back and look at it from a wider lens, okay? If you, the viewer, you, whoever you are, went to a different country and said, "This is my home now. Free stuff, please." I would imagine that a lot of countries would tell you to kick rocks. Now, this may be dependent on your um, nationality or what you look like. If I came from America and said, "Hey, England, what's up? I want to live here," they might throw some tea in my face and tell me to go, right? But if I was from, a country that may not have a third world country, let's just say, like, if I come from a third world country, they might take me with open arms and say, "Yeah, come on in. I got a house for you. We'll close down this school, make them do remote learning, and we'll house you. Come on down." You know, I just I want to kind of ask these questions. I feel like these are common sense questions, and you know, I don't really think they're getting asked a lot. And you know, let me know if I'm saying something crazy, but I hope that this Texas situation can be resolved without, you know, physical conflict. But what I really want us to think about, okay, because the powers that be, they're not going to just send their tanks in and just blow up Texas. They're just not going to do it, right? Think of the backlash from that. What I think would actually happen is playing dirty, like attacks on migrants. I think if they will make it look like the people that are being patriots and defending their state and their border start shooting people, killing people, hurting other migrants. There's going to be videos coming out of people attacking other people, and it'll find out that like they're an undocumented immigrant, and they will turn the tide in favor of, oh, let's be nice to them. They're people too. Texas is the big bad meanies. They just want to kick everybody out. I think that's more likely to happen, you know, because in that way, Joe Biden looks like the good guy. You know, hey guys, like I know that there was this conflict we got to resolve because, unfortunately there was violence that happened against these people, and he's gonna build his base around this, like, and then he can use that. God forbid if that guy runs again. Actually, with as much momentum as Trump has, I hope that they let him run again. Trump versus Sleepy Joe again. I love those odds, dude. He's very unlikable. But let's say that they do some type of maneuver where it looks like, migrants are being attacked by Texans. That could be fuel for him to run on that basis of, let's bring everybody together, blah, 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 blah. Right. So I would say when you're looking at this stuff, be observant. If it seems like we're only talking about one thing, typically there's something else happening in the background. And as stupid as our president is, he has a lot of smart people around him. A lot of people that are really good at their jobs that are going to come up with some game plan and hire a bunch of, well, I don't want to say, I don't, I almost said something. Um, they could probably organize something that would look as though whatever narrative they're spinning, as though it's actually happening, right? And you won't have a way to prove it because how do you prove what's real and what's not anymore? In the digital age with AI, how do you prove, you know, I said this and I didn't say this? Like, how do you prove that anymore? A watermark? But yeah, these are the things that were kind of on my mind and some stuff that I really wanted to bring attention to. Um, Stuff's a little crazy, man. It's getting a little crazy. But I appreciate you guys' time and God bless. And I stand with Texas and I hope you do too.